So here's a question I get asked a lot. Hey PJ, you know how to scratch, you know how to juggle. Why don't you just use turntables? Well, as a controllerist, I don't really know how. Just kidding. The quick answer is I really don't want to. So let me tell you my personal story and let me explain this one. When I first started spinning, I was using turntables just like everyone else. But I was also producing music and I was a teenager, and this is in the 90s. And computer software was just not there yet for DJ software and making music. Back then, I used to make music using my dad's keyboards and our old Roland standalone DAW. And we used to just record it track by track with no computers. And I would often burn these tracks on CD. See, it was fun to buy records and scratch other people's music. But if I wanted to do that with my own music, I had to go find a way to press it on vinyl by myself. And a lot of times, these pressing plants required you to buy it in bulk. As a broke teenager, that really wasn't an option for me. So what I used to do if I wanted to play my music was I would have to play it on CD, but do all my scratching on turntables. And then came the year 2000, when Pioneer DJ released the first CDJ 1000. What I did was I would burn my own music on CD and then run to Guitar Center and try scratching it. And I thought that was the most awesome thing in the world. In 2003, 2004, one of the residencies I had bought a set of CDJ 800s for the club because the Newmark dual CD player was just junk. And I got my first taste of using CDJs regularly. Even though the feel was a little different from vinyl, it didn't take me that long to actually just get used to it. Mind you, this was before Serato, before Final Scratch, and before Denon even had the moving platter. And I just got really accustomed to being able to scratch on a jog wheel that doesn't turn. For me, it was a big celebration because I never had to worry about needles skipping, needles breaking, or my tone arm being knocked off. For you guys who are celebrating that the Rain 12 and the phase device finally frees you from the tone arm and the cartridge, welcome to the party. So for years, I was the goofy guy scratching and juggling on CDJs. And you know, during the time, there were also turntable purists. And during those days, they were anti-Serato as well. And they'll tell you you're cheating because you're not using real vinyl. And what's funnier is when you actually convince one of them to try CDJs, they start struggling on it because they don't know how to work the non-moving jog wheel. So during the mid-2000s, even though I was working and spinning at some clubs, when I lived in Detroit, I was still pretty broke. I could barely pay rent and I could barely pay my bills. So even buying my own gear was out of the question. I remember I was working at my friend's parents' Thai restaurant, bussing tables, because I just was not making enough money to pay my bills with just my gigs. So after work at the Thai restaurant, Guitar Center was just across the street in Southfield, Michigan. And I used to come over the store every single day and just practice on the CDJ 1000 Mark II and the CDJ 800s because I didn't have a set of my own. I know the sales reps got pretty annoyed with me because I was just blasting it for months on end. And then I had friends who started buying CDJs. These friends who bought CDJs would trade with me that if I taught them how to use it well, they would let me borrow it from time to time. So I always had these ongoing arrangements where if I needed a set of CDJs, I had to go to one of the people I taught. Sometimes I would rent it from them. Other times they were cool with letting me borrow it. And one of the things is I didn't get on Serato until 2012, which is pretty late. And one of the reasons why back in 2007, 2008, I didn't hop on Serato, I just didn't have a strong enough computer even back then. Like I said, I was broke. So I was burning CDs all the way till 2012. In 2008, I started getting booked in Iowa. And as I made several trips here, one of the guys who was promoting the events that I was spinning at asked me, hey, I'm gonna buy some CDJs. Would you like to move here? And these can be our company gear. And let's all throw events together. Shout out to Drew Soy for doing that because I picked up my bags from Detroit and left. It was still a struggle getting myself up, so I was still stuck on using CDJs, burning CDs because I didn't have a computer. Until I got my first MacBook in 2012, where I finally switched to using Serato. So why am I telling you that story? Well, all these years where people were using vinyl and Serato, and me not making enough money and having to borrow gear, having to rent gear from people, and struggling to pay my bills, it kind of cultivated me to hang on to just using CDJs and burning CDs, even though all my peers were using DVS and spinning vinyl. So that's what kind of formed my bond with using a jog wheel and doing my turntablism on it. Fast forward years later to recent years. The CDJs that me and Drew have been using are pretty worn out. I knew I needed to get my own gear. I really wanted a Nexus setup, but if you know anything about them, you know that they're pretty expensive. So there was one guy who inspired me to consider an entry-level controller, and that was my friend, DJ Brett B. He's a really, really prominent open format DJ here in Des Moines. In fact, I even like to say that he's Des Moines' best DJ that's actually a real DJ. When I saw him at the 505 Live Music one year, I saw him using a DDJ SB. So I'm thinking to myself, if this guy, who's a prominent turntable head, who knows how to scratch and juggle, can use an entry-level controller like an SB, why should it even be below me to use an entry-level controller? So I went ahead and bought a DDJ SB2. It wasn't the easiest thing to scratch on at first, but then I started making videos like this one. One of the things about scratching on a controller is if you want it to sound good, going from a turntable to a jog wheel that's only like this small is not that easy. And it took me some practice time to actually adapt. The trick is to get into the mental state where 12-inch platter, 7-inch jog wheel, and little jog wheel are all the same thing in your head. And when you can get to that mental state, it's not hard to jump around between different platforms. I also noticed that a lot of people started to acknowledge that scratching on a controller like that is not that easy. Sure, it's easy that you don't have a needle and a cartridge that's going to skip, but the size of the thing and the fact that it's not rotating makes it difficult for some people. I'm going to say that it's not that hard as long as you practice. And I always preach that it's not what you use, it's how you use it. So I decided to put my money where my mouth was and use a very inexpensive DJ controller for all my gigs, even today, all the way to music festivals. It's not that I can't use CDJs. I love using them in HID mode. And it's not that I can't use turntables, but I honestly like to treat DJ gear like musical instruments, and you vibe best with the one you bond with. When I look at my entry-level controller, I think about all the times that I couldn't afford gear, and I had to go to Guitar Center and practice and trade lessons for gear loaning. And when everybody got on the computer and started using DVS, and everybody getting on a controller, it's just a reminder to me that it's not about the gear. It's about how you use the gear. And it's funny because today, 2019, with all the people I taught, even though I worked for Pioneer DJ, and even though I recently won the Red Bull 3 Style live remix contest, I still don't own a pair of CDJs, nor do I own a big DJ controller. But what's nice is today, it's no longer an issue of can I afford a set or can I afford the big controller? It's just that now I've been bonded with my little controller that my best work comes from using that thing. Most likely down the road, I'm probably gonna get a Nexus setup and maybe some PLX turntables as well, and a bigger professional controller so I can finally plug my guitar and instruments into one device. But once I learned how to do all my techniques of turntablism and live remixing using a little controller, it's no longer as critical for me to have a professional setup. See, I explained this in my video, 9 reasons why I use an entry-level controller, that I can take my SB3 anywhere. I throw it in my check-in luggage inside its case, and I can take it anywhere. I'm even thinking about taking it to Germany this weekend. So the reason why I'm sharing the story with you guys is because a lot of people think that the only way to learn proper scratching and turntablism, you have to have turntables. Or the only way to play real electronic music is you have to have a Nexus setup. I'm sorry, but that's all bullshit. Skill comes first, gear comes second. A lot of people get into this mental rut of, if I buy the best gear, I'll look like the best DJ. That is not true. Talent is not included in a box of PLXs or techniques. You can learn and hone your skills on any gear possible. Look, they got the DDJ 200 now. You don't even need a computer. You just need your phone, and you can still scratch on it. So I hope that story helps you guys out. I'm not saying everybody should start on an entry-level controller. I'm not saying everybody should move into a controller. What I'm saying is, if you really, really love what you do, you're gonna do your best work. That's a Steve Jobs quote. The only way to do great work is to love what you do. And I loved it enough that even though I couldn't afford a set, I would go to Guitar Center to practice. I would do my best with the cheapest $250 controller. I learned how to use and scratch on CDJs without owning a pair while bussing tables at a Thai restaurant, broke as a joke. You guys have gear today that costs less than headphones, and some of them don't even need computers. Access to DJing and the mixing arts has never been easier. If a dorky and clumsy person like me can do that, you guys have access to all the opportunities to create some awesome things. So no matter what you own, no matter how cheap your gear is, do your best to be great with it. All right, guys, well, thanks for listening to me ramble. If you guys got any questions or any comments, be sure to leave them in the comment section below. Would love to hear your thoughts or answer any questions you guys might have. If you like this video, be sure to smash that like button. And if it's your first time here and you found this video useful, be sure to hit that subscribe button and don't forget to click that little bell icon so you get a notification the next time I upload a video. All right, guys, thanks for watching. Take care.